Solo cruising might just be one of the most inspiring ways in which to see the world. No compromises on your end, certainly no group text chaos to worry about, and nobody judging your third trip to the dessert bar. But let's be honest with each other here, booking a cruise alone can also stir up a few what-if type jitters. If you've ever wondered what solo cruisers really have to worry about and how to shake those worries off deck side, I'd say we have a little bit to talk about. I am the solo cruiser Wade Heath, and if you feel like my reporting and perspective bring you any sort of value, please consider subscribing to the channel and ensure that like button is firmly pressed. Here we go. Right out of the gate, it's the fear of feeling out of place. Let's tackle this big one first. The worry that everyone else will be in couples or families, leaving you to dine with your own shadow. Here's the truth. Yes, there will be couples and families, but cruise ships are floating cities full of every kind of traveler, and solo guests are becoming a rapidly growing part of that mix. Many lines even host meetups or mixers specifically for solo cruisers. Norwegian and Virgin Voyages are great about this. I'm seeing it more and more on every line I travel on. This includes Carnival, this includes MSC, even Princess does solo cruiser meetups. Treat the ship like your playground. Sit at the bar, join a trivia game if you need to, or ask to share a table at dinner. You'll be surprised how often people are curious and kind when they learn you're cruising solo. Or ask if there's a solo table in the dining room. This is something that I think people tend to forget about on cruises. A lot of times they'll sit solos at a communal table, bringing everybody together for mealtime. You don't have to hang out with them after or before, but during dinner, some people prefer that. I'm the opposite side of the coin. I don't tend to sit at communal tables. I really do enjoy my solitude and peace when I am doing a solo cruise. And what's great about that is it doesn't matter in the end. Everybody's preferences are accommodated, and you can enjoy your trip the way you want to enjoy it. Moving on, let's talk about safety and security concerns. Being alone in a new environment can trigger some understandable anxiety. Whether it's worrying about your belongings or your cabin location, even your safety while exploring ports, I think all of these are very valid thoughts. Cruise ships, they have very large security teams nowadays. There are cameras everywhere and locked access to guest areas. Still though, smart solo cruising means being aware. Don't advertise your cabin number. Keep your valuables in your safe if you need to, and always trust your gut in unfamiliar situations. You also don't have to talk to other people if you don't want to. I feel like nowadays we're always so obliged to want to give up information and share more about ourselves than we need to. Whether that's through social media or in person when you're on vacation, I feel like a ship setting tends to lean in that direction where you just want to be friendly, you just want to be nice, and so you let more out of the bag than you wish to share up front. Never feel obligated to share more information than you need, and certainly never feel pressured into doing anything you don't want. This is your vacation. This is your cruise. Feel free to speak up to a crew member, go directly to an officer on board, and let them know how you're feeling or if you are uncomfortable for any reason. If security and worry is an anxiety that new solo travelers just can't shake, I tend to encourage them to choose a midship stateroom near public areas, nearest the atrium, nearest the guest service desk, for example, if you want to feel a little more secure. And as always, ensure friends, family are aware of not only the cruise you're going on, but the itinerary and your room number, and maybe even set up some time to check in throughout the voyage if you are truly concerned, so that you have a standing time in which to communicate with a friend or family member that might be on shore and let them know that you are doing just fine and feeling quite comfortable. Next up, let's talk about dining alone and that awkward first meal. The first night on board, I understand, can feel intimidating when you're dining solo. You might even picture yourself surrounded by chatty groups while you silently sit there eating your shrimp cocktail. But in reality, this moment often becomes quite empowering. You can choose when and where to eat, what you want to eat, and how long you end up staying in any sort of venue is entirely up to you. You want to make it a social type of gathering? Eat at the bar. Book a chef's table or join group dining tables. On top of that, more and more ships have teppanyaki-style restaurants nowadays. Go and pay the upcharge and sit with that group. It's a blast. I've done it myself. You want some quiet? Grab your meal. Take it to go. Enjoy it on deck under the stars, or head up to the buffet. Nobody's paying attention to you in an environment like that. Nobody cares if you're sitting alone at the buffet or you took the food out to poolside on Lido. Nobody cares. And I think the same goes for the interior restaurants as well. When you sit down in the main dining room and you happen to be alongside a table, I do not even engage the tables next to me unless they engage me. Quite frankly, I think, hey, it's their trip, it's their vacation. If they want to talk to me, I will completely involve myself in their chat, but I will wait to have that permission first. I will allow them to be the ones to initiate. I will tell you that oftentimes people are so fascinated by the fact that I'm solo traveling. And I'm fairly certain it's because the majority of people wish that's something they could do as well. When you chat with others and you mention, yeah, I'm here alone, they immediately start to ask questions. Oh my gosh, are you nervous? Oh my gosh, I could never. Is that something? How did you manage to pull that off? How did you manage to bring yourself to do that? And I always share with them, well, I got confident, I got secure, and I felt like this is what I need to be doing with my life. I need to be traveling, and I'm not going to wait for anybody else to validate my own happiness. I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to grab it and live. And they often really appreciate that. I also had a great conversation recently. It was on the Royal Princess, and I was out on the aft end of the ship one night. I was reading something, and this couple came up and just struck up a conversation with me out on the aft deck. And as we were chatting, the wife eventually got up and left the area, and the husband confided in me that he would give anything to solo travel. He was so fascinated by the fact that I was out solo traveling. He told me basically a brief story that he and his wife and family had gone to the Mediterranean on this dream cruise, this dream trip he'd always imagined. He said they got there and he was completely consumed by family responsibilities, his kids whining, screaming, not wanting to be there, not wanting to do anything, his wife wanting to go back to the hotel. And he said, all I wanted to do was see these things I'd always dreamed of, was explore this region I'd always wanted to explore. And he said, I really admire the fact that you're out doing that on your own and that you're willing to put yourself first to go do those things. And I said, well, I know not everybody can. Not everybody has, the same sort of, I suppose, freedom that I happen to have. But it is something that I definitely make a priority in my own life. And yeah, I'm really enjoying myself. So again, I feel like there are a lot of people out there who really want to do what we're doing and respect the fact that we're the ones doing it. For anybody else, I say they're just probably pretty insecure with themselves and could never do it on their own. But dining alone isn't meant to be lonely. I think it's freedom with a side of creme brulee, so just go for it. To follow that, missing out on shore excursions. Group excursions, I think, can feel a little weird when you're solo, and booking private ones might seem expensive because they tend to be. But ports really are where solo travelers have some of their very best experiences. I always say try and opt for smaller group tours where everyone naturally chats, or explore independently with local guides. Some ports like Cozumel or St. Thomas, they are perfect for solo exploration right off the pier. And something that I've taken to doing in recent years is Airbnb experiences. So rather than booking an Airbnb, there's another side to their website, and that is the experiences portal. Go to the experiences side and book a local guide to take you to places that you might not normally get to see. You might not normally get to encounter with a ship excursion, something through the cruise line. Often those are the types of excursions that have very small groups, so it's incredibly intimate, and you get a lot of access to your guide and information you'd probably never hear otherwise. I would also say don't ignore excursions just because you become familiar with a port city. I know I've done that before where I start to think, I know enough about this place. I don't need to get off the ship. 2 years ago, I was on a cruise that stopped in Miami, and while the majority of people did not get off the ship that day, and I almost was one of them, I happened to see a new excursion that was being offered called the Best of Miami, and I thought, it sounds interesting. It's brand new. What the heck, I've got the whole day, might as well try it. Turned out to be one of the greatest excursions I've ever been on, and Michael, the tour guide, was my guide. He took me to Miami Beach, took me to the Arts District, he took me to Little Havana, gave me an insider's look at his town, the way in which I don't think I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing another excursion. He's the youngest tour guide I've ever come across. He ended up feeling like a buddy in the end, and we are buddies to this day, as a matter of fact. He and I communicate on a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis. He's one of the coolest tour guides I think you could ever meet. Michael, the tour guide, on social media. Check out the Best of Miami tour. If you happen to be stopping in Miami, or you have a day where you're embarking or disembarking from a ship and you've got time before you have to leave, go take the Best of Miami tour with Michael, the tour guide. I think you will really find it not only fascinating, but culturally quite enriching. There was so much I learned about Miami that day. I've lived in the United States my whole life. I never knew that about Miami. By the end of the day, I felt like a true pro. So check it out if you get the opportunity to. And finally, cabin fever or loneliness. Long days at sea can bring moments of quiet, and sometimes those can be a little too quiet. It's natural, I think, to miss a bit of connection. But I combat this by planning interactive moments into my cruise. I attend a lot of shows, I join onboard classes, I hang out in communal spaces. The ocean might be vast, but I feel like connection is always just a few steps away when I'm on a cruise ship. It's something that I never have to worry about. It's something I can always take advantage of just because, again, there's usually so much going on throughout a cruise ship itinerary that doesn't have to do with the port stops and has everything to do with the onboard activities. So do I ever feel lonely when I'm on a ship anymore? I don't. I feel like there's so much to do. There's so much involved. And again, when I get that balcony cabin, I spend a lot of time out on that balcony by myself because the solitude is a joy. Learn to become your own best friend. I think that brings you to a place where you can really appreciate the present moment. And the quiet, it can also be a gift. Solo cruising gives you, I think, that rare chance to recharge and reflect without distraction. Every solo cruiser has a list of small fears before sailing. I get it, I had them too. But once you're on board, that sun in your face, the ocean stretching endlessly, most of those worries fade with the wake. You'll find your rhythm. You're going to find your confidence and maybe even a few new friends who remind you that solo doesn't mean alone. It just means you're free. So go have some fun. Go jump on a solo cruise. Have you cruised solo yet? Are you going to be cruising solo in the near future? Do you have questions for me about what the experience is like, what you should plan for, things you're thinking about that maybe I didn't touch on here? If so, drop them in the comments. I will be sure to get back to you. By the way, if you'd like to see one of my in-depth reviews of a solo cruise that I took on a Carnival ship to Mexico that unfortunately took a bit of a dark turn, then I'd invite you to check out that video on the right. And for other cruise travel tips and more, check out that video on the left. I'm the solo cruiser Wade Heath. We'll see you next time.